To watch all of my exclusive content not featured here on my channel, log on to my website at imjustheretomake.com/films. OCO, my brothers and sisters, relatives, spiritual warriors, and free thinkers, let's begin this segment with something that will stimulate your thinking in an area you may be vaguely familiar with, or you could have possibly just never thought about it before. What would be the reason behind changing particular historic objects that could possibly tell a completely different story from what is considered to being the norm of what is commonly known? For example, this fresco-style painting was produced and published by a Spanish-Italian painter named Giovanni Battista Tiepolo during the year of 1752. And his painting depicts what the inhabitants of the American continent looked like during this time period. The written description of this painting was later translated into English as, quote, "The personification of the American continent rides on a huge crocodile with her naked upper torso and feathered headdress. She represents the uncivilized world. She is surrounded by people characterized as wild creatures who hunt with bow and arrow. The figure reclining below her holds a horn of plenty as a symbol of the riches and fertility of this part of the world, which was of the greatest interest to the Europeans." End quote. But what is also important to note here is that this painting was drastically changed, then later republished to look like this. Which should make you wonder, why would anyone go out of their way to change a simple painting from what it originally looked like? Throughout my years of investigative research, I discovered a common pattern that is religiously used by the writers of American history, along with their affiliates or anyone else that has assisted with propagating a stranger's information, and especially the type of information we consistently receive throughout America's compulsory educational institutions, systematically. These strangers' patterns can be easily traced by just simply connecting the dots. Then one will immediately discover just how much these strangers must tell a school of lies with another lie and then another lie that only confirms another lie. This utilitarian manipulative tactic that is embedded within these strangers' motives is none other than indoctrination, which is the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Uncritically meaning with a lack of criticism or consideration of whether something is right or wrong. For example, we can recall hearing that the N-word was used by those who fell victim to preconceived notions or prejudice within their families that can only be taught to an individual at a young age, exposing just how vulnerable their families truly are by allowing strangers to manipulate their minds with a set of beliefs that have never been proven or even questioned for that matter. So we can easily determine that the N-word should not be used as a means to call upon each other in a positive sense, especially when it originated from a word that was used in a negative sense, deriving from the word niggard, that means an extremely stingy person. But then over the years, we somehow allowed it to be adopted still. Also, our people were historically called Indians, but not by each other during the earliest days of American colonization, only by foreigners from another continent that did not have our people's best interests whatsoever, but we eventually allowed it to be adopted still. Now, you may recall me using the word Niiji throughout many of my documentaries when referring to the indigenous people of America, along with their descendants, and here's why. Niiji is an ancient descriptive term that defines all Aboriginal people that have indigenously inhabited the landmass historically called Turtle Island, in which this term only refers to particular western areas of the supercontinent known as Gondwana, which includes Canada, North, Central, and South America, along with the surrounding Pacific Islands. These landmasses are commonly referred to as Turtle Island for many heavily spiritually inclined reasons. The simplest reason is due to its shape depicted on various maps of West Gondwana, being as though all of the edges of the landmass visually forms the shape of a prehistoric turtle. But then it goes a lot deeper than just some random illusion and a so-called myth. First being the turtle's historic background, in which the legacy of the turtle stretches far beyond what the Gregorian calendar can detect. Terrestrial turtles have been alive literally before anything was ever written down, predating Western colonialism and Western civilization, and even the births of all foreign oral gospels. So, the turtle has been there, done that, lasting even beyond what is known as the Jurassic era. They live on land and are ones with nature. And just those few things alone represent a mutual spiritual connection between the turtle and the indigenous people. Parts of Turtle Island are viewed as being the shell of a great turtle. The shell of the turtle is structured by about 60 or more of its bones, and it cannot be easily penetrated by an invading predator. This also represents the ancestral spirits of indigenous people. We are warriors, and during the times of war, our ancestors did not take it easy on foreign invaders. For centuries and centuries, our ancestors revolted against invading enemies, and once the strongest chiefs of many of the largest families were lost at war, then, and only then, the shell was fractured. But that is not a permanent misfortune, because a turtle can actually heal itself from a fractured shell and recover from its injuries. And so can you. Moving along now, the term Niiji was directly used as a positive means to refer to an ally or an associate by numerous indigenous families throughout the Americas and Canada. However, the term Niiji should not be confused with the word friend. You will hear the word friend being commonly used nowadays by every American, but have you ever thought about its initial usage or even its original definition before? Its recorded origin derives from the mid-1600s and used in one of the most popularized pidgin languages of that time period, English, which was later known as Old English. The word friend was originally defined as a Quaker or a member of the religious society of Friends. And also during this time period, the antonym of the word friend was fiend, which basically drops the letter R in the word friend, and it was defined as an enemy. Nowadays, the word fiend is used to describe a person that has an overwhelming substantial amount of interest in something, whether it's good or bad. But originally, the Quakers referred to each other as friend and referred to any other groups of people as fiend, which describes their enemies, evil spirits, or the devil. So, since our ancestors were not Quakers at that time, nor were they members of the religious society of Friends, then it's quite obvious who they were referring to when using the word fiend. And this is why the word friend and the term Niiji have no correlations. So now, let's take things a step further and cover the origins of the term Niiji. This term derives from the indigenous Algonquin language, which was a language spoken in multiple different dialects or accents by various tribes or families throughout the Americas and even parts of Canada over time. After the indigenous people of America were infiltrated by foreign influence that led to many deadly wars, mainly against our very own people due to their betrayals, the Algonquin language became one of the few languages adopted by extended families that found themselves chiefless after the wars subsided. Niiji was used to describe an ally and traditionally used amongst indigenous men towards each other. And prior to this word being adopted by many, it was chiefly used by the Anishinaabe family as the shorter version of their Ojibwa or Algonquin-based word called Niiji, which means my brother. And according to the Department of American Indian Studies of Minnesota, the word Niiji is defined in English as my brother, my cousin, or my fellow man. And throughout the years of American colonization, Niijis were fictitiously labeled as various misnomers and derogatory social constructs, such as people of color, coloreds, Negroes, mulattoes, Creoles, blacks, and now African Americans, all given to us by only foreign squatters migrating from other countries of the surrounding continents, only to keep us all separated. So, when you hear me use the word Niiji, now you know that I am strictly referring to my extended family members throughout the Americas, or Turtle Island, with the utmost respect for who they truly are, and also what our ancestors fought and died for. I'm just here to make you think.